Trump winning elections to the invention of video calling, The Simpsons have a crazy habit of getting the future exactly right. But the specific things they warned us about for 2026 are actually terrifying.
The most terrifying Simpsons predictions for 2026 that will change everything is something fans cannot ignore. For years, The Simpsons has shocked the world with strange scenes that later feel real. For years, we look at the most terrifying predictions that seem connected to the year 2026. These moments are so strange that people are asking real questions about the future. Are these just jokes or hidden warnings we never understood? Could 2026 really bring these events to life? What if everything starts to match? Join us as we explore deeper AI job loss and the growing plastic crisis. In The Simpsons Season 23, Episode 17, Mr. Burns finally does what companies have talked about for many years. He removes human workers from the power plant and replaces them with machines. Homer is the only human left behind, but he is no longer important. He becomes little more than a person standing beside the machines, pressing buttons and taking the blame whenever something goes wrong. The most chilling moment comes when the robots deliver a line that no longer feels funny today. They tell Homer that he will train them before they replace him. What once sounded like a joke now feels much closer to reality. That change is already happening across the world. In January 2026, the IMF warned that almost 40% of jobs globally are exposed to changes driven by artificial intelligence. The pressure is especially strong for entry-level workers because routine tasks are easier for software to automate. Younger workers often have fewer opportunities to protect themselves from these changes. The World Economic Forum also warned that major shifts in the labor market could remove about 92 million jobs by the year 2030. At the same time, nearly 39% of the skills people use today are expected to change or become outdated. Jobs facing the highest risk include computer and math positions, office and administrative work, customer service and data entry roles. Artificial intelligence is still far away from fully replacing people in many industries, but it already handles large parts of these jobs. Even partial automation is enough to reshape hiring decisions, training systems, and opportunities for new workers trying to enter the job market. One major example came from Duolingo. The company announced that it was moving toward an AI-first approach and would slowly stop using contractors for work that artificial intelligence could complete. Around the same period, the company introduced 148 new language courses created with generative AI technology. It became the biggest content expansion in the company's history. Then, in March 2026, Atlassian announced plans to cut around 1,600 jobs, which represented about 10% of its workforce. The company explained that it was shifting resources toward artificial intelligence and enterprise sales. These are not isolated cases involving only a few famous companies. Since last November, more than 61,000 jobs around the world have reportedly been lost in layoffs connected to artificial intelligence. A clear pattern is beginning to appear. Businesses are not waiting for some distant future filled with robots. They are already using software to reduce team sizes, remove positions, and demand more productivity from fewer workers. Another disturbing prediction appears in The Simpsons during Plastic World from Treehouse of Horror 36, Season 37, Episode 3. This episode presents one of the darkest futures the series has imagined. The Earth is not destroyed by war or a sudden disaster. Instead, it slowly disappears beneath endless layers of plastic waste. Lisa moves through a dead and lifeless landscape, searching for something that once seemed ordinary but now feels almost impossible to find. She searches for real soil. The episode describes a world where humans once grew food in a strange substance called dirt. Under massive piles of waste, Lisa eventually discovers the old Quickie Mart, sealed away like a forgotten tomb. The food inside remains preserved beneath years of plastic pollution. The horror grows deeper when Homer and Marge return, not as survivors, but as plastic-like creatures that have become part of the garbage surrounding them. This is what makes the episode feel so unsettling. The destruction does not arrive instantly. It happens slowly, one bottle, one bag, and one wrapper at a time. The OECD warns that global plastic waste could almost triple by the year 2060. Even then, less than 1/5 of that waste is expected to be recycled. About half is still projected to end up in landfills. That means the world is not moving toward a simple cleanup. Instead, it is moving toward an unimaginable level of accumulation. Plastic World feels frightening because it takes today's reality and pushes it further into the future until garbage no longer becomes something humans throw away. It becomes the ground people live on. The problem is no longer only environmental. It is becoming deeply personal for human health. A major review published in The Lancet during 2025 warned that plastics are now a serious and growing threat to both environmental and human health. The report estimated that the economic damage connected to health effects now exceeds $1.5 trillion every year. Scientists have already discovered microplastics and nanoplastics inside human organs and tissues. A major study published in Nature Medicine in 2025 found rising levels of these particles in the brain and liver. The research also reported that normal brain samples contained 7 to 30 times more plastic particles than the liver or kidneys examined in the same study. The fear here is not only that the planet is filling with plastic waste, it is that people themselves are beginning to carry plastic inside their own bodies. That is why developments in 2026 feel so important. In August 2025, international talks in Geneva aimed at creating the world's first global agreement on plastic pollution failed to produce a final deal. Then, on February 7, 2026, a follow-up meeting only handled basic organizational matters without real negotiations taking place. As a result, the waste continues to grow. The scientific evidence continues to grow. Yet the world still has not secured a strong global response to the crisis. Dark warning about social media and life beyond Earth. Intrigue House of Horror presents Simpsons Wicked This Way Comes, Season 36, Episode 7. The Simpsons delivers one of its darkest warnings through a parody of Fahrenheit 451. In this future world, Homer works with a team that destroys low-quality television tapes. Cheap game shows, silly programs, and meaningless entertainment are treated like dangerous threats. Only serious and approved prestige television is allowed for people to watch. The shocking part of the story is the reason behind it. The approved content is not meant to make people wiser or more informed. It exists to keep people calm, obedient, and emotionally numb while they continue living inside a damaged society. That is what makes the episode feel so disturbing. The purpose of entertainment is no longer education or improvement. It becomes a tool for control. That idea already feels very real today. Global digital research showed that by early 2025, there were about 5.24 billion active social media user identities around the world. The average internet user was also spending about 2 hours and 21 minutes every day on social media platforms. That means a huge amount of human attention is now guided by recommendation systems. Real life did not remove silly entertainment and replace it with high art. Instead, it created something even more powerful. Modern feeds study what keeps every person scrolling for longer periods. Anger, embarrassment, gossip, shocking clips, and endless new content are constantly pushed forward because attention has become the product. The longer people stay online, the more valuable they become to these systems. The result is a world where millions of people remain overstimulated, emotionally exhausted, and distracted without fully realizing how much of their focus has already been captured. By 2026, this concern is no longer just a dark prediction. It is now appearing inside real courtrooms. In Los Angeles, Meta and YouTube were pushed toward trial over claims that their platforms were intentionally designed to keep children hooked while damaging mental health. The case became an important test for thousands of similar lawsuits. Earlier, in January 2024, the CEOs of Meta, TikTok, X, Snap, and Discord faced intense questioning before the United States Senate over failures connected to child safety. In New Mexico, prosecutors also brought Meta to court over claims that its platforms failed to protect children from sexual exploitation and solicitation. This reveals the darker side of the prediction from The Simpsons. The problem is not simply foolish content. The real danger comes from systems designed to maximize engagement, even when addiction, manipulation, and emotional harm become the outcome. That is why governments are beginning to focus heavily on regulation. The European Union's Digital Services Act now requires major platforms to explain how their recommendation systems operate. Large platforms must also provide at least one recommendation option that is not based on personal profiling. In December 2025, the European Commission fined X 120 million euros over transparency-related violations connected to that law. Governments increasingly believe that recommendation systems are powerful enough to shape emotions, opinions, and behavior on a massive scale. Another eerie prediction appears in the Marge Ian Chronicles, Season 27, Episode 16. In that episode, Mars colonization is presented not as a distant fantasy, but as a realistic future product. Lisa joins a private mission to help build a human colony on Mars, and the project is marketed with the same branding, paperwork, and confidence often seen in modern startups. That idea feels much more believable in 2026. The episode even jumps forward to the year 2051 and shows Marge and Lisa living ordinary family lives on Mars. What once sounded impossible now feels like a serious goal being actively planned by major institutions. NASA continues developing technology that could send astronauts to Mars during the 2030s. At the same time, Mars remains incredibly distant and difficult to reach. Depending on orbital positions, the planet sits roughly 33 million to 249 million miles away from Earth. A round trip would travel beyond 1 billion miles. Private companies have pushed the dream even further. SpaceX has openly discussed plans for a self-sustaining city on Mars that could require more than 1 million people and millions of tons of cargo. In May 2025, Elon Musk said SpaceX hoped to attempt an uncrewed Starship mission to Mars by the end of 2026, while also admitting there was only about a 50% chance of meeting that goal. By February 2026, reports suggested the company had shifted more attention toward the moon, delaying Mars plans again. That is why the prediction feels so powerful now. The debate is no longer about whether the idea is impossible. The real question has become how long it will take. The deeper fear is what these plans reveal about Earth itself. When some of the world's richest and most powerful organizations begin designing roadmaps for life on another planet, it raises serious questions about the future of life here. Once the idea of a city on Mars starts to feel possible, difficult questions quickly follow. Who will be allowed to go? Who will remain behind? And why is humanity preparing for life on another world before fully repairing the damage already happening on Earth? How digital life is changing homes and vision. In Friends and Family, Season 28, Episode 2, The Simpsons shows a future that once felt silly but now feels very familiar. The story begins with Mr. Burns using virtual reality technology to create a fake family life he never had. The most important detail comes at the end. A few years later in the episode, most people in Springfield are walking around with virtual reality glasses. These glasses are treated as normal daily items. The show is not just predicting VR as a toy or a gaming tool. It is pointing to something bigger, where digital life becomes a layer placed between people and everything they see. By 2026, this idea no longer feels unrealistic because major tech companies are already moving in this direction. Apple describes Vision Pro as a spatial computer that blends digital content with the physical world. In October 2025, it upgraded the device with the M5 chip. Google explains Galaxy XR as a system that mixes physical and digital worlds with Gemini assistance. Samsung says Galaxy XR supports eye, hand, and voice control, understands both physical and digital environments with context awareness, and is designed for entertainment, multitasking, collaboration, and AI support. Meta describes Orion as a system that connects physical and virtual spaces. This shows a clear shift in 2026. Companies are no longer debating mixed reality. They are competing to control it. IDC reports that the XR industry is moving toward a glasses-first direction. It expects headsets to recover in 2026 with new releases, while XR glasses will grow strongly for the rest of the decade. This means the full system of hardware, software, and AI is already being built, even if most people are not using it yet. The direction is clear. Phones can be put down and TVs sit across the room. But face-worn mixed reality places digital layers directly in your view. This can include ads, work tools, maps, shopping, messages, entertainment, and AI help. Once companies control what appears in front of your eyes, they are no longer competing for screen time, but for reality itself. A similar idea appears in Treehouse of Horror 12, Season 13, Episode 1, where the Ultra House 3000 is a voice-controlled smart home that cooks, cleans, watches every room, and manages everything. Global risk and modern warnings. In The Simpsons episode Lisa's Wedding, Season 6, Episode 19, a dark future joke appears in a very casual way. Lisa enters Moe's tavern, and the conversation turns to world wars like it is normal talk. Moe jokes that America saved Britain in World War II. The reply flips the idea, saying Britain saved America in World War III. Moe simply agrees and moves on. There are no alarms, no panic, just everyday speech. That is what makes the moment feel unsettling. The episode does not show destruction or chaos. Instead, it shows a future where even something as serious as a world war is spoken about like ordinary history. The danger feels familiar, not shocking. This idea feels even more powerful today. On January 27, 2026, the doomsday clock was moved to 85 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been. The doomsday clock is a warning symbol created by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. Midnight represents a global disaster caused by humans. The closer the clock is to midnight, the higher the risk of catastrophe. 85 seconds signals extreme danger. Experts did not point to one single cause. Instead, they highlighted several rising risks happening at the same time, including nuclear tension, weak arms control systems, biological dangers, and the growing use of artificial intelligence in military systems without full control or agreement. The nuclear situation adds to this concern. At the start of 2025, there were about 12,241 nuclear warheads in the world. Around 9,614 were in military stockpiles, and about 2,100 were on high alert, ready for quick use. Then, another limit ended. The New START Treaty, the main agreement controlling nuclear weapons between the United States and Russia, expired on February 5, 2026. This removed legal limits on deployed strategic nuclear weapons between the two countries. Just before that, on January 9th, Russia launched a nuclear-capable Oreshnik hypersonic missile into western Ukraine near the Polish border. It did not carry a nuclear warhead, but it still sent a strong message of escalation and power. This shows how advanced weapons can be used for pressure even without actual detonation. The most concerning part is how normal all of this can feel. Daily life continues. People go to work, travel, and study. Yet the risk sits quietly in the background, shaping global reality without constant attention. A similar idea appears in another storyline from The Simpsons in the episode often referred to as Margin Chains, Season 4, Episode 21. A factory worker in Osaka becomes sick and unknowingly contaminates products. These products are shipped across the world, spreading illness without anyone noticing at first. The outbreak then reaches Springfield, showing how global supply chains can carry disease quickly and silently. This feels relevant after recent health events. In August 2025, the World Health Organization identified a fast-spreading influenza variant, H3N2 subclade K, which helped drive a strong global flu season. In the United States, CDC data by January 31st showed between 22 million and 38 million illnesses, between 280,000 and 590,000 hospitalizations, and between 12,000 and 60,000 deaths. By early March, there were 101 pediatric deaths recorded. The episode also highlights how fear spreads. Hospitals become overwhelmed, rumors grow quickly, and public reaction can worsen the crisis. Even helpful solutions can backfire when panic takes over, as shown when a treatment delivery is disrupted by chaotic crowds. To prepare for future outbreaks, countries adopted a global pandemic agreement on May 20, 2025. It aims to improve cooperation, speed up response, and ensure fair access to vaccines and treatments. However, key parts like pathogen sharing are still being finalized, and the agreement will only take effect after 60 countries approve it. The central warning remains clear. Future pandemics are not a question of if, but when. What do you think about these predictions? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, be sure to click on the video shown on your screen.